Why hunt elk? Well, I think we all have different reasons why we want to hunt elk. I certainly have mine. I'm assuming many of you are here tonight because you have yours, and I'm hoping tonight I can go through some of the reasons why I do, maybe help you figure out reasons why you want to as well, and maybe what you want to do when you're doing it. You know, the elk has been an iconic species here in North America and the West for many years. I mean, starting clear back as far as Roosevelt and even Jack O'Connor writing about the elk, to as frequent when I was a young man growing up reading things like Peterson's Hunting Magazine and that sort of thing. And obviously growing up in Colorado, because of the fact that Colorado, elk's a Colorado species, where I grew up, it was very fascinating to me too, but it goes back a long way in our history, and a lot of us have been very fascinated by it, just as I have from a kid. To me, this is really, to me, what the elk is about. We all have our favorite species, but to me, the elk is the quintessential big game animal of the American West. Now, I know some people might think of the mule deer, maybe they might think of the sheep, but the truth is, I think when you ask the vast majority of people what they think is the quintessential American West big game animal, it's going to be the American elk. And that's certainly what I've always believed about it. Most of the people that I've talked to and asked kind of feel the same. So, it's just, in my mind, you can't do better in the American West than that big bull elk. One of the things that I really like about the elk is just this, the diversity of the habitat that you can find in it. Now, all you guys here in Texas, I mean, I've literally recently spent time hunting and guiding for elk on the Canadian River Ranch in the panhandle of Texas, and then found them as far as the deep, dark woods of the northern wilderness of Idaho, and everywhere in between. The plains of Colorado has a great elk herd. The pinyon junipers of New Mexico and Nevada have great elk herds. Certainly the wilds and the wilderness of Colorado, Montana, Wyoming do as well. But the vast diversity of the areas and habitat that elk thrive in today is really phenomenal. So maybe you are a guy that wants to hunt elk, but hey, look like me. A few years ago I had a heart attack. I can't do the physical things that I used to be able to do when I was guiding, when I was in my younger years. But you don't necessarily have to go to that wilderness elk hunt in the mountains of Wyoming. You can find an elk hunt in the plains of Colorado, for example, or maybe the southern high desert in New Mexico, where it's not as difficult. So that's one of the great things about the elk, is they are a very diverse species, and they have figured out a way to inhabit and prosper in many different diverse areas that they live across the West. Another fascinating thing to me about the elk is the physical characteristics of the elk. First of all, for those of you that have hunted them and shot them, I mean, you've seen they are a big, hardy, tough animal. And it is part of the reason why they have really thrived across the West over the last 20, 30 years, more so than, say, the mule deer, for example. I have seen bull elk and experienced bull elk in places where a mule deer couldn't survive. I mean, the hardiness, what he can do to survive, the snow depth he can survive in, what he can do it's unbelievable what an elk can do. And then you factor that with, I've never seen an animal that has any better senses than an elk. From his eyesight, to his hearing, to his smell, he has as good as all of them. Now, of course, we all know that most big game animals have great senses, and it's tough to get around those, but the elk is certainly not lacking in that area. And then lastly, another challenge is the physical toughness of the elk. Again, having guided many of them around the West, shot many of them myself, and many other animals included, I've been very impressed with the ability of the elk to be a tough, hardy animal when it comes to hunting. You have to really hammer these things, for lack of a better word, to put them down. So it's when you factor in all those aspects, and of course the rugged toughness of where they live, it can be a very challenging, difficult hunt. And a lot of their physical characteristics are why they are as difficult as they are, because what they can handle. Now, of course, in the last few years, a lot of us have made a greater push to try to eat better, eat leaner, that sort of thing. And is there anything that's better than that? But for most of us, of course, the wild game, I certainly like it, and I'm sure you guys do too. Now, we all, again, have our own personal opinions, but I think that elk is the best wild venison that I've had. So, of course, you might have your own, favorites, but without question, obviously, it tastes great, it's healthy, and it's a great added bonus for a hunt you're doing, whether you're doing a trophy hunt or just a fun hunt. If you can get some elk meat, who doesn't want to take that home? So, just for a minute, I'll jump through the elk subspecies. I think it's an interesting topic for a brief moment, but would like to mention it if I can. We have 6 recognized North American elk subspecies, but there's really only 3 nowadays that are prevalent. 1 being the Rocky Mountain elk, 2 being the Roosevelt, and 3 being the Tule. As you can see here, 2 of them are extinct, and the Manitoban, I hear about it so rarely that I don't even think, quite frankly, it's worth mentioning, but know that they certainly were there. The first, and without any question, the most prevalent of all of them is the Rocky Mountain elk. Very prolific throughout the West. We've done an incredible job with conservation from what the elk came from 100 years ago to what it is now. Huge numbers of elk in most of the states across the West. Take a state like Colorado, we now have close to 300,000 elk. So it is a very prolific species that really reigns supreme as far as the subspecies of the elk goes. Most of them are found in all the states west of Mississippi. There is a couple of unique places, though, now that have reintroduced elk. And in fact, I applied for both of them. Pennsylvania has done a great job with reintroduced North American elk, being the Rocky Mountain elk, and then Kentucky has also done the same. And believe it or not, even you guys as non-residents can all apply for those on a special draw. I do both states, of course, if not gotten lucky enough to draw one, but it's something to at least mention. Big animals. Most of these bulls are going to weigh 700 to 800 pounds on average. Big animals. So, one of the things you got to consider if you're going to be hunting for one. Roosevelt elk. This bull here, for example, is a bull on the right. It's a gray Roosevelt that I killed in California a few years ago, but most prevalent in Oregon, Washington, and California, generally closer to the coast side. Even Washington and Oregon and California, northeastern part of the state, have Rocky Mountain elk, but when you start talking about Roosevelt elk, most of them are going to be closer to your coastal areas. There is a lot of hunting opportunity for the Roosevelt elk if you pay a little attention and look in the right places. Just like this one that I did in California, it was basically a landowner purchase permit that I did with an outfitter. You have a couple of opportunities like that for the same thing in Oregon and Washington. So even though it's not as sought after or thought about elk species, there is a lot of opportunity for the Roosevelt elk, and it's something that you're interested in doing. And one thing I was really impressed with on this, and as it's mentioned right here, man, they are big. I was absolutely shocked at the size of this Roosevelt bull. He was about a 340 bull, which is a great Roosevelt elk, but when it says 1,000 pounds, I truly believe that he probably was 1,000 pounds. It was quite impressive what a huge elk it was compared to all of the Rocky Mountain elk that I've been accustomed to. Last one being the Tule elk. Unfortunately, I've not yet had the opportunity to hunt for a Tule elk, but it is an incredible species. They are very small, a very small area where they're located, mainly in central California. You have 2 very limited opportunities to be able to potentially hunt for them. One is California does allow for one non-resident elk permit a year to be drawn. To be drawn. And that could be a Rocky Mountain elk, it can be a Roosevelt, it can be a Thule. If one non-resident draws a tag, that's it. So, look, I apply for it every year. Of course, I've never drawn that either, but I do apply. Otherwise, there are landowners and outfitters that do get a limited issued quota from the California Game and Fish Department that some landowners are selling directly, some outfitters have them. But so there is a limited opportunity. What you have to be aware of there, obviously, is because of the fact that it is so limited, the price is pretty high for them. But you know, if you're really looking to try to get your elk species slam, this is certainly one of them that you're going to want to do. You know, what are your hunting expectations? Well, you know, I'm going to spend a minute and go through that. And I think that's obviously, if you're deciding that you want to do an elk hunt, you know, there's a number of different factors you have to consider. And certainly I think this is the best place to start. So, hunting expectations. You know, two things in my opinion really you're looking at is your trophy expectations, meaning do you have trophy expectations? And the second is what kind of elk hunting experience are you looking for? Well, you know, fortunately for me here, in this picture, I got the experience that I was looking for in both ways. I shot an exceptionally good trophy bull elk, and I was fortunate enough to have my two buddies gut and drag it out for me. So that's definitely a trophy and a good experience. So there you go. But anyway, let's go. You know, let's talk about some of these things. Trophy expectations, you know, cost considerations, I think, is one of the things. Usually, anytime, as a booking agent, I have guided and sold hundreds of elk hunts over the years. And I usually try to start with asking my potential clients a number of questions. I think it usually helps me to narrow down what they want and helps them too. Where do you want to go? Who do you want to go with? What weapon do you want to shoot? What kind of trophy are you expecting? And one of the other things that I ask quite frequently is, you know, let's just cut to the nitty-gritty. What's your budget? You know, it's a very important question. I mean, you can't buy champagne on a beer budget. And, you know, trophy elk hunting often goes the same way. So it's definitely one of the things that you want to give consideration to. Now, with that said, you know, when you're talking about a guided hunt, I think that you're going to break it down into a couple of categories when it comes to the cost considerations of this hunt. Again, how much money do I want to spend? How much money can I spend? And is that realistic with the type of bull that I'm wanting to try to hunt? Am I wanting to try to shoot a 350 bull, but I'm going to spend $5,000 on a guided hunt? Now, I will tell you, that's like going into the Ferrari dealership, asking the guy if you could buy one of his Ferraris for the same price you just paid for your Honda Civic. I mean, in most cases, that's probably not going to be likely. So, you know, you have to try to understand that keeping your, you know, your criteria and your desires within the same limits of what your budget is likely to be able to handle. And it's just a matter of fact. I mean, one can't go without the other, so you've got to be prepared for that. Obviously, a self-guided hunt on public land, well, that's just that. I mean, if you're looking for a more reasonably priced opportunity to hunt for elk, this is probably one of the angles that you can take. You have to realize that you now put a lot more responsibility for the elk hunt upon yourself to not only be scouting and knowing how to judge elk, knowing how to find elk, camp, all this sort of stuff, but certainly it's something that can be done. It can be done at a much less cost, but you're going to have to be willing to put forth a lot more effort, time, and knowledge, in my opinion, to be successful at doing so. Here's another interesting thing. I get a lot of questions about, you know, guys wanting to do, nowadays you still get guys wanting to do the traditional, you know, I want to rough it out in the woods for a while, you know. And if you're willing to do that, well then great. And you're willing to consider doing a horseback type hunt, then that's something that you might really enjoy doing. Again, one of the things you start to consider on that is your cost. So are you looking at doing this as a guided hunt? If you are, obviously when he has to the outfitter that is supplying tack and horses and all the equipment that goes along with it, he's going to have a greater expense into that? Or are you the guy that's got your own horses and tack and everything, you can do it on your own? Well, then you might be able to save some money at it. But again, you have to look and determine whether or not those two cost prohibitives are one that you can do, whether it be guided and handle that, or you can do it on your own. Another one is the pickup truck on private ranch, one of my favorite elk hunts now, to be honest with you. I used to like the other, but I prefer the AC. That rig right there, as a matter of fact, I like that. But, you know, if that's something that you're thinking that you want to do, you're going to have to talk to the outfitter, or the agent, or the guys you're working with, and determine whether or not you can find the quality of the hunt that you're looking for, both in terms of trophy quality and expectations, that fits within your budget parameters. And like I say, as an agent, that's one of the things that I go over with guys so much. I mean, I know everybody wants to talk about the elk hunting itself, but let's face it, at the end of the day, whether it is, you know, guided, unguided, horseback, private ranch, whatever the case may be, your budget's going to play a part in that. So it's something that you need to try to look at and understand what it is that you're getting into before you make that final decision. This, I guess, expounds on a little bit what I was just talking about, which is trophy elk. And when we start talking, let's say 350 plus bulls, 375 plus bulls, are a lot like real estate. It's all about location, location, location. This is a 384 bull that I killed a few years ago in Colorado. But the greatest way to say it is, I don't care if you're willing to spend $50,000 on your guided elk hunt. If you have chosen to go to an area that's never produced a 350 bull in the last 10 years, the greatest guided outfitter in the world can take you there, and you are not going to kill one. You can't catch a 10-pound bass in a bass pond here in Texas that ain't never produced a 10-pound bass. So, regardless of what you're willing to spend on the hunt, first and foremost, make sure the quality of the elk that you're seeking actually exists in the place that you're going to go hunt. Hopefully, whether you're dealing with a landowner or an outfitter or an agent, whoever you're dealing with on that, is telling you the straight scoop and you're getting the straight information. But, like I say, you can't shoot Bigfoot because Bigfoot just ain't there. So, make sure you're taking that into consideration when you're picking your place that you're going to go, despite the cost of whatever you might be willing to spend. When it comes to the experience, and let's go back to that for a second, I mean, there's really, in my opinion, three types of hunts that you're looking at. Are you still one of those guys, like I say, that wants to do that backpack wilderness hunt, or do that horseback wilderness hunt? Well, obviously, those two are a bit different. One incorporates horses and a camp and generally an outfitter, supplying all that stuff. And then you do get a great experience, and you get to ride horses and sit around the campfire and, be out in the wild wilderness and hopefully not a lot of people around. But, be honest with yourself and ask yourself, one, can I ride horses? Do I still have that ability? Do I like horses? That's why I want to be out there dealing with that in the first place. But does the area that I'm going to provide the kind of experience that I want, even though it's a horseback wilderness hunt? Is it an area where I can glass a lot because I like to glass? Or is it an area where I just call elk? Is it stick timber? Think about those things when you start talking about whether or not the type of elk hunting experience you want is provided by this guy you're talking to. Backpack hunting. Listen, I've done this a bunch, and I'm sure some of you have here too. Please make sure you're prepared. Physically, I no longer am. That's why I like that truck in the other picture. But I have assured you I have done this a ton, and obviously in my younger years. But it takes a lot of physical ability, and it takes a lot of experience and knowledge to not only know about your area, your gear, so on and so forth. So it's a wonderful experience, and you might be able to get into some places that nobody else gets to. But make sure you take into consideration all the factors that go along with that, and are you yourself capable of doing it. Ranch style, spot and stock hunt. Okay, well, we're talking about a little bit of two different things there. First of all, me personally, what I love about hunting the West is I'm a spot and stock hunter. My favorite thing that I love about hunting is the pursuit. I love to visualize, see the animal, and figure out how I'm going to go and kill it. That's what I love about hunting. So if that's the sort of thing that you like, you want to talk about to the guy and say, hey, are we doing spot and stalk, or are we sitting at a water hole? Well, that's become more popular nowadays. So you want to make sure if that's what you like, you talk to the outfitter and say, hey, we're going to be spot and stalking. I don't want to just sit under a tree. Ranch style hunting, again, like I mentioned now, I'm becoming more of a fan of that. But it can be a lot of fun. And oftentimes it's very successful, and in some cases it can be a great trophy hunt too. But that's where you're asking yourself, not only what am I trying to spin, but what kind of hunt am I looking for to have a semi-comfortable, semi-fun road hunting type experience. I don't mean road hunting, but using a vehicle to access places, that sort of thing. One where you're not strapping on a backpack and walking 5 or 10 miles a day. If that's what you're after, this is probably going to be the type of experience that you want to talk to your agent or your outfitter about. Okay, the guided hunt. Well, this hunt right here just so happens to be me in the middle with my outfitter on the right and one of his guys on the left. And of course, I was thankful to have him. I mean, here we are with a really nice elk that I shot in New Mexico, and wouldn't have been able to do it without these guys. But let's go through and talk about some of the things that you might find, experience, want to look for if you're considering a guided hunt. By the way, that's I know it's hard to see on my back there, but that's that bull went about 340. It was a really nice elk. I did unfortunately see a really big bull on that hunt one evening that we were not able to weren't able to get to him that night. Couldn't relocate him the next day, unfortunately, and never saw him again. But it was fun to have my buddies and fun to do a guided hunt with these guys, so it was a lot of fun. Okay, well, this is probably, in my opinion, the number one or number two thing, and the next one I'll get to will be probably the experience of a guy that's been doing it for a whole long time. I don't claim to be, I don't ever talk about, and I don't sell turkey hunts, because the truth is, I've killed 2 turkeys in my life and I know absolutely nothing about it. Elk hunting, on the other hand, I know a whole lot about it. And when you go with an experienced guy, you're relying on him for his elk hunting experience, his elk hunting knowledge, his ability to judge trophy elk. And this is an example of that. In fact, Jeremiah right here was with me when we helped Larry here kill this bull. This is a 417 bull that we shot in New Mexico. It's the largest elk that I've ever been a part of killing. I didn't shoot this bull myself, unfortunately. But I did help Jeremiah film it. We had a great experience on this hunt. But Larry relied exclusively on several of us to make sure and judge this bull before he killed this bull on the tag that he had to do so. And I would encourage you guys to think about that when you book your guided hunt, that guy, especially if you're spending a lot of money at it, hopefully has the experience and the knowledge that you're looking for him to tell you, what that elk is, what he scores, how we're going to get to him, so on and so forth. Very important in my opinion. This to me is probably, for a guy like myself, this becomes the most important reason why I still do guided elk hunts. I feel like that I could go and I don't need a guy to judge an elk for me. I don't need him to tell me how to kill it. I don't need him to do anything for me as far as that goes. But if I get fortunate enough to either draw a hunt in a very special area or maybe buy a hunt, the biggest thing that I'm counting on that outfitter and that guy for is his knowledge of the area. No matter how great an elk hunter you might be, his 20 years of knowledge and experience in that particular area where you're hunting at that very moment is way more valuable than the experience that he might have of killing 20 more elk than he did because you're 20 years older than your 25-year-old guy. But he spent the last 6 years of his life guiding for that guy in an area 3 months a year. I assure you, he knows it much better than you are ever going to know it. So rely on him for that. Nothing wrong with putting your input in a little bit, and I obviously do that when I'm on guided elk hunts. But if I get a really exclusive tag, which I've done several times, I will still hire an outfitter and a guide because I want his knowledge of the area. I don't want to waste 2 weeks of my time trying to figure it out myself. These two, I'm not trying to jump back and forth, excuse me. This one is, it goes with one of the other ones that I'm trying to get at here in a second, but again, let's say you have the example of what I just mentioned, which is maybe you get a tag in a really exclusive area, whether it be a landowner tag or a draw voucher, or whatever, a draw tag, whatever it may be. Now you're here in Texas, you're coming from a long ways away. I mean, not only are you then battling against, the knowledge of the area and the experience of the area, but, are you willing to traipse up there with your trailer and your kitchen sink and everything else? Oftentimes these guys can also provide you with a lot of equipment that they have. That's part of what you're paying for. And again, something to give great consideration to versus, maybe you were thinking about doing it on your own. Well, these guys are going to have everything you need right there for you. You should certainly talk to them about their camp setup, what they provide, what your food's going to be, so on and so forth. But without any doubt, I will bet you in most cases these guys are going to have as good or better equipment and could bring it a lot cheaper and easier than you could. All right. Big one. Elk's 800 pounds, 700-800 pounds, as we mentioned. I don't know about how many of you guys have packed out an elk on your back, but I've done plenty. And I assure you it is not any fun. Obviously a huge advantage now, just like one of the previous pictures I showed you where it's great to have your buddies that can help you out. Well, obviously in this case, your outfitter and guide, a lot of the responsibility of getting that elk out of there is going to be on them. That's what you're paying for. And certainly it's a huge benefit to me now, and it should be, and likely will be a huge benefit to you, especially when you consider in many of the states, and I'll give you an example of Colorado where I originally come from. Colorado now has a wanton waste law. If you intentionally leave game meat in the field, it's a felony. It's not a misdemeanor, it's a felony. So none of us want to be charged with a felony because we weren't in good enough shape to be able to pack our elk out and leave 50 pounds of meat out in the field, and they come find it anyway. You guys get the point I'm getting at. So it could be a huge help to have these guys not only get it out for you, but keep you legal. All right, this is the fun stuff, at least to me. One of the biggest questions I get, obviously, is if guys are trophy elk hunters. All right, I'm looking for a trophy elk. We usually break it up into categories. I'm going to start with this one, which is if you're looking for what is really the creme de la creme of big bulls, 375 plus that's where it's at. And as far as typical DSC score goes, a 375 bull is a Boone and Crockett, net Boone and Crockett bull. This bull on the left that I killed, that is the largest bull I've ever killed, and it's 402. I shot him just about a year and a half ago on the Navajo reservation in Arizona. If you're looking for a 402 bull or a 375 plus bull, one of the places you guys should certainly be considering is several of the Indian reservations in Arizona. The Navajo where I hunted, I would probably put it at the bottom, to be frank with you, but the San Carlos, the Wallapai, the White Mountain, that's one place I would absolutely be looking to hunt. And San Carlos being the number one. If I had one elk tag aside from a governor's tag that I could have in the entire country, I would take an elk tag on the San Carlos Indian Reservation. And there are others. There's the Ghost Shoot in Utah. There's a couple others around, but generally speaking, reservation-wise, Arizona is going to be your place. Even the Mescalero in southern New Mexico, which I've hunted literally right on the border of, I'm not generally going to produce that kind of bull. They do shoot some big bulls, but not going to produce that kind of bull. We're back to Larry's bull here on the right. Again, that 417 bull that we all shot in New Mexico a handful of years ago. That was honestly on a New Mexico governor's tag for elk. But I would say New Mexico, Utah, and Nevada would probably be my top 3 states were places where you could look to get a landowner voucher to have a chance at trying to kill a 375 plus bull. Arizona, of course, would be my number 1 state, but they don't offer landowner vouchers there. No such thing. So, obviously, if you're looking for that, you got to go where the one's available. These 3 states would have them. The most important thing is, just because they have them, again, we go back to that location thing. You have to get one in a few of the areas in those states where you might potentially be able to produce a 375 volt. Then, as far as that goes, you've got two options for obtaining them. You can either get them through, and oftentimes landowners have them secured. Excuse me. And on a rare occasion, you can deal with landowners directly and maybe get one there. But a lot of times, some of the best tags that are on the units or in the ranches are secured by outfitters. But you just have to determine where you want to go and see if you can find something that has what you're looking for. Lastly, all across the West now, with the exception of 2 states, every elk tag in the West is a draw tag. Now, certainly some areas are better than others. And again, you don't want to just draw a tag and assume you're going to be hunting an area for a 375 bull. But this bull here on the bottom is an elk tag, an elk that I killed in Arizona. That bull went exactly 380. And I happened to draw a very good tag in Arizona that year. And opening morning at 8:30, that's the bull that was on the ground. So I had a really good area, and I had a really good outfitter, and a really good guy that knew exactly where we were going. So it worked out. But regardless of the fact that some of these states offer these draw tags, if you were really telling me you want to try to draw a tag in Wyoming, for example, on a 375 bull, I'll tell you, well, good luck. I don't care what you're going to be drawing in the state. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's extremely unlikely. Even in these areas, but those 4 states right there, Arizona, Utah, New Mexico, and Nevada, and in specific areas in those states, if you can acquire a tag there, you have a chance. You'll be fishing where the big fish are. Let's put it that way. All right, 350 plus volts. We'll drop it down a little bit and make it a little bit more realistic, although that is still a big bull, and lots of guys will be extremely happy with that. This bull on the left is a bull that I killed a couple years ago with my bow. It went 364 in Colorado. I killed it on a private ranch in Colorado. I think one of the places you could start with is just as we mentioned here, private ranches. And I listed just a couple as examples, but the type of thing you're looking for. The Hardtice Ranch in Colorado is a great place in southern Colorado where the tags are actually over the counter in that unit. But the guy that owns it does an extremely good job of managing them. Charges a fair price for it, but he kills some big bulls. The guy from a ranch in New Mexico, and frankly, I'm just giving you guys a bit of a consideration. A good private ranch elk hunt is what I'm insinuating here. There's a lot of them around the West where this could be potentially available. So if you're dealing with an outfitter that has something like that, you might be into a chance where you can kill a 350 plus one. The bull on the right is a bull that I killed in Colorado, actually on the Three Springs Ranch. He's 363. Ranching for Wildlife. I know some of you guys have probably heard of that. Colorado offers that program, and Utah offers a similar program called the CWMU program. Basically what it is Colorado's Ranching for Wildlife is just that cooperative deal between the Colorado Division of Wildlife, or Colorado Parks and Wildlife now, and the landowners. So the landowners and the ranchers do not any longer have to follow the set state guidelines for seasons. If they qualify for the ranch and they get set up with the Ranching for Wildlife program, they then come in and say, okay, you've got 50,000 acres, here's 10 elk tags, you have 89 days to hunt those, pick your season and hunt with whatever weapon you want. So it can be a huge advantage. In other words, I shot that bull in Colorado September 24th, I believe it was, with a high-powered rifle. Peak the rut with a rifle. Those hunts are available, you just have to look for them, and that would be a great opportunity to try to kill that 350 plus bull. Again, back to the landowner vouchers, commission tags, and draw tags. A 350 plus bull on a draw, you're going to open up your opportunities a little bit, including Colorado, Wyoming, and Montana. I think, again, if you want to try to draw a tag, you could have that availability. Now it opens up again a little bit more opportunities with landowner vouchers. There's tons of them out there, and tons of outfitters have them. But again, it still comes down to specifically, is the guy that I'm dealing with, does his ranch or his area potentially produce a 350 plus bull? And then commission tags, if similar to a governor's tag, but a state like Utah, for example, offers lots of commission tags in different areas where you can pick up for honestly anywhere from $85,000 to $15,000 just for the tag, specific just to that unit where you might be able to go in and have a chance of hunting these type of bulls. Not everybody's interested in killing a giant bull. Some people just want to go elk hunting and have a good experience. I mean, get what I consider to be what many of us consider to be a representative bull. Maybe you just want elk hunt, you want the meat, so on and so forth. So that's something to consider. So then, when you're thinking about that, you want to look at, am I looking to do this on private land, or am I looking to do it on public land? That's one of the places that I would start, because that's going to dictate the overall experience and the overall price as well. If the end result is just for you to get an elk, and the trophy's not such an important piece of it, then look at these options and factor those into your price. So this bull on the left is a great bull that I killed on a private ranch a few years ago. He's nothing special. He's a great bull. I was very happy with him. Great meat, had a good hunt. That bull on the right that was a public land hunt that I did. And I'm telling you, that's one of the toughest elk hunts I've ever done. And as you can see, he's, I frankly didn't score him, so I couldn't tell you what he is, but he's nowhere near being a 350 bull. I don't even think he was scored 300, to be totally frankly. But it was a public land hunt and one of the toughest ones I've ever done. Just getting there, one way we would walk 5 miles every morning just to get to where we would be looking for the elk. Have to walk back out 5 miles and have to drive an hour morning and evening just to get back and forth to camp. So, it was a tough deal, but I would call it a representative elk hunt and a representative bull, but we still earned it. I think this one's pretty obvious. One of the biggest advantages of a self-guided hunt is you can do it for a lot cheaper than you can do a guided hunt. That's really as simple as it comes. Many of the guided hunts are going to be, minimum of $5,000 to $25,000. If you load up a couple of your buddies and feel like you've got the gumption and the ability to go do it, you could do a self-guided hunt for, maybe $1,500, $2,000 a piece. So, certainly something to consider. If you're trying to hunt elk and you want to do it, but you're on a budget, it can be done if you just research it a little bit and figure out where you want to go, what you think you want to, what your end results are, or what your end game is that you want to accomplish from it. Another one, this is me packing out an elk that I killed in Colorado a few years ago by myself. In fact, I say by myself, my girlfriend was with me, and I made her perch on a rock for hours on end while I went on a death march to try to get to this elk. And I actually had it in the spotting scope. And I said, now listen, and I have a radio, which is legal in Colorado. And I told her, I said, you have one job. If this elk moves out of this scope, please let me know. So it took me 2.5 hours to get up and above him. I radioed him and I said, is he still there? She says, I have no idea. I was like, did a big brown object move out of the scope? She goes, I don't know as if I ever saw him in the first place. I don't know. So anyway, luckily enough, I poked over the edge and there he was, I got him. So, but obviously the satisfaction of doing that on my own was a lot of fun. And having her with me was, it was a little frustrating, but so the funniest part was, I got to tell you this because you guys will laugh. That morning when I glassed this bull, I had her drop me off in my truck and I walked about, 3/4 of a mile straight west to a giant boulder that was literally the size of this room. You could get on it, but it was bigger than the house. And I found this bull way up on a mountain by himself. I radioed her. I said, hey, get back, drive back here and come to me on the rock. And so she said, okay. So she gets to the parking spot, and I said, all right, I said, now just head west to the rock that's the size of a house. She goes, which way is west? I said, well, you were pointing west as you're parked right now. She goes, I have no idea which way west is, north is. I said, just get out and walk that way until you run into the giant rock that you cannot miss. And so she gets really close to the rock, and she goes, well, I don't know what to do. I said, look on top of the rock. She goes, yeah. I said, you see that big orange pumpkin standing on top of the rock? That's me. I think we got you now, so you're safe. But anyway, we had a lot of fun, and she was a tough gal, and she helped me pack it out, but it was a great few days of elk hunting, and we did get a lot of self-satisfaction by doing that ourselves. So that's one thing I do enjoy about DIY hunts. Okay, listen, I'm gonna jump ahead here. I'm gonna kind of throw this together in one. Accommodations and equipment required. So that was kind of go together. You know, again, like I mentioned a few minutes ago, if you're going to do the DIY hunt and you think one that you're physically, mentally prepared to do it, you know, now you got to ask yourself, do I have all the gear to go do it? You know, are you going to rock up there with your trailer? Are you going to put up wall tents? Are you going to sleep in a pup tent? Are you going to backpack it and bivvy it? And I've done that too. You know, you can do it all. But I mean, you know, based on what you individually want for your elk hunt and how comfortable you want it to be, you better give serious consideration to, are you prepared to bring all the equipment you need? Are you flying? Are you driving? How are you going to get it there? So, you know, again, before you start planning out that DIY hunt, sit down and think and go, hey, listen, this was really going to be cost effective a minute ago. Now me and my buddy got to buy $3,000 worth of camping gear. Well, maybe it won't be so much. So, you know, think about that before you get it done. Probably, in my opinion, the most important thing if you're going to do a DIY hunt. I'll try not to drag it on, but very simply, are you physically capable of getting that elk out of the woods? Because if you're not, you probably shouldn't do a DIY hunt. Again, like I mentioned earlier, some states now are taking this really serious. You don't want to leave any of that meat in the field. So if you're not going to be able to, one, have the equipment to do it, and two, have the physical ability to do it, you know, think about it. But if you are, just do keep in mind that, you know, this is all going to be your responsibility. Even as simple as, maybe you do want to mount the elk you killed. You know how to cape an elk? And I don't mean just cape it up to here. Can you cape it all the way out? Because if you got to carry it out, you're better off to cape it out completely and cut its head off and save yourself all the weight. You know, so all those things, you know, keep in mind, you know, can and are you going to be able and willing to do that? You know, most of your DIY hunts, your self-guided hunts, are going to be public land hunts. But there are some opportunities out there to do some private land DIY hunts. Again, if you search for it, you can find landowners that don't want to deal with an outfitter. They prefer just to deal with private individuals, and they'll say, hey, you know, for $2,000, you can have access, you and your 3 buddies can have this week on my ranch. You still have to give the consideration to how you're going to get your tag. Is it an over-the-counter? You have to draw it. Is it a landowner voucher, whatever the case may be. But, you know, if you decide that you're not into the public land thing, you want to do the private land thing, you can certainly find those. Otherwise, a lot of your, you know, DIY hunts that guys are doing for obvious reasons, even if they do draw a bid tag on public land. To me, I think it's just a matter of what the experiences you're looking for, and wherever you're going, does it have the quality of bulls you're looking for. But again, you know, some guys I know that just want to hunt private. Well, there are a few opportunities out there. You just got to look for them. People ask me all the time if they are going to do a DIY hunt, you know, where do I do it? Well, the first 2 most obvious ones are going to be Colorado and Idaho, because again, those are the only 2 states left in the West that have over-the-counter elk tags. So if you want to just be able to buy a tag and go elk hunting, you can do it in those states. Colorado, having the largest elk herd in the state, as I've mentioned before, has lots of opportunities for DIY over-the-counter elk tags. Now, one other thing that I haven't mentioned yet that you could take into consideration if you decide to do the self-guided hunt is there are a number of outfitters, and I work with one in Colorado who's a good friend of mine, that he offers a DIY fully outfitted camp. So you show up and, you know, you're responsible for getting there, you're responsible for getting your elk tag, you're responsible for guiding yourself and packing out your animal. But you can rock up to a fully furnished wall tent camp with cots and stove and pots and pans and tents and everything you need. So, you know, one thing to consider if you're going to do it is maybe look at that example too. But Colorado, Idaho would be the places you look at for over-the-counter tags. Then, if you do happen to draw or buy a landowner voucher in one of those states, do it based on where you think is the best quality of the hunt you're trying to do. But I still know a lot of guys that'll pay $10,000 for a tag and then go do the hunt on their own. You certainly can do that if you feel like you've got the capability of doing it. And nowadays with Onyx Maps and all the research that's available on the internet, and some of the other companies that are offering research and availability, Honeyfool, for example, if you remember that, if you remember Epic Outdoors, some of those guys, Robert Hammond, who works for the Hunt Fool, who I think is not only a very close friend of mine, I think he's the most knowledgeable person in the entire country of every state in the West that I've ever seen. And if you have a $100 a year membership to a service like that, you have the ability to call him on the phone and discuss with him any state in the West to go elk hunting. I mean, it's a great $100 a year spent if you're that DIY guy that wants to go do these things on your own. You can get a guy like him on the phone for $100 a year, and I promise you there's nobody that knows more about the West than that guy. Okay. So you decided you know what you want, whatever you think you want. What are you going to do it? How are you going to do it? Planning, booking, or not? Well, listen, Dallas Safari Club has, without any question, the greatest opportunity for you members that you will find anywhere in this country, and that is the Dallas Safari Club convention that takes place in January every year. I mean, you guys have at your fingertips, right down the road, the ability to go in there and meet with dozens of outfitters offering elk hunts. And I'm telling you, I've seen the reservation guys there, and I've seen the over-the-counter guys there, and I've seen the guys that specialize in these private land vouchers or draw hunts. Every single one of those outfitters that offers the type of hunts that I'm talking about, I've seen at the Dallas Safari Club show. So you might sit down a couple days before you go and thumb through your list of exhibitors and spend some time going and talking to those guys. But without question, you have the best place you can find right here in your own city. Booking agents. Well, obviously I have to throw that in there because I am one. And so, I certainly want you guys to call me. But I will tell you the advantage that myself, Jeff Neal, Wendell Rich, a number of other guys, the Atchisons, all these guys who are exhibitors at your Dallas Safari Club show that I can think of, versus the individual outfitter you might talk about, kind of goes back to all these criteria we talked about already for your trophy guided elk hunt. When you speak to an outfitter individually, he has his outfitted hunts to offer you. So of course he's going to tell you they are the very best that there is. If you call me and you give me that list of criteria that you're looking for, well, I know outfitters in all the states and all the hunts they offer. And I can say, okay, listen, here's a couple of options that I suggest that fit best with what you just told me you want, not just the only one, the only one Honda I've got over here in the corner to sell. So certainly a good booking agent is something to consider. Now websites, that's pretty standard and pretty obvious. Now you can do a lot of research now on the internet. And again, not just through outfitters' websites, but there's forums, there's Google, there's lots of information out there that you can hit up. And then lastly, kind of goes back to the Dallas Safari Club convention. I mean, you got buddies here, you got a lot of other members. If you need to contact, the guys, if you need to contact Corey and ask him for a list of members that he might suggest that have maybe done an elk hunt, I'm sure that they can provide those for you. So not only your buddies that might have been elk hunting, but certainly with thousands of Dallas Safari Club members, I think you could find some that probably could give you some pretty good guidance. Okay, obtaining the tag. I won't go crazy into this, but something we could talk about briefly. Obviously, the over-the-counter tags are just over-the-counter. Again, Idaho and Colorado, they allow you the opportunity to literally get online and buy an elk tag if you're willing to pay the non-resident fee. You've got your tag and you're going out on it. Pretty straightforward. Whereas the vast majority of elk tags now, you cannot do that. Limited entry drawing. The one thing you guys, you have two things you have to consider here. One, every single state in the West, and I do them all, I have an application service that I run for clients. To be honest with you, I don't play it heavily because it's a lot of work. But Honeyfool, again, Epic, some of those companies do. But I will tell you, I apply in every single state that you can apply for a non-resident elk tag, and they are all grossly different in the rules, regulations, fees, application deadlines, whether they use bonus points, preference points, no points at all. You can have a wonderful opportunity to potentially obtain some really great tags, but you got two choices. Either you delve into this on your own and learn all the states and learn all the stuff that goes along with it, Or again, you hire a service like Epic, Huntful, whatever the case may be. They have application services that they will do all of this for you. Now, I will tell you, depending on what your criteria is, me, myself, I am strictly a trophy elk hunter. I have no interest in shooting if it's not 350 now, I won't even look at it. But I've been fortunate enough to kill 13 bulls over 350 myself. Good for me, that's great. I spent a lot of time. But if you are going to try to play this game and you are only looking for a really big bull, understand that you will spend a lot of years and a lot of money in this application game and not come away with very many tags. You might on occasion, and I've done it for years and everything, and I've been fortunate and have got a couple, but a couple would be it. Because nowadays there are thousands and thousands of guys that are playing this game. Landowner tag, again, as I mentioned, very simply, you're either going to go, if you can, directly to the landowner. There are a couple of guys, and you guys really get serious and are interested in New Mexico, for example. I've got a good friend of mine there that is a tag broker that sells lots of tags. I can get you in contact with him. And often those tags, and when I say the tag, you're literally just buying the tag, and you can choose to either find a guy that you want or just go hunting on your own. But it's the last state in the country where you can get a great opportunity to do that. Then, of course, a lot of the other tags are controlled by outfitters. So, if it's not that sort of situation, you're probably going to have to get your tag directly from an outfitter. Okay, season decisions. I don't know if you like it cold, do you not like it cold? Well, this is a bull that I killed in Wyoming 25 years ago, and I can tell you it was like 25 below zero that day. I didn't care how big he was, I just wanted to shoot him so we could go back to the truck. Because as I mentioned, I like those truck hunts. But, early season archery, it's just that. Weather's usually nice. Bulls are usually with the cows, and if you're really looking for the opportunity to experience, what I think is the greatest vocalization in the woods that you're ever going to hear, which is the elk when they're in rut and bugling, this is when you're going to do it. You're going to have to go in September, maybe early October, but if that's what you're looking for, that's when you're going to have to do it. Of course, like I say, great weather. Oftentimes then, maybe you're limited to a bow. Some of the other hunts, depending on the ducks we talked about, you can't hunt with a muzzleloader or a rifle, but oftentimes it's bow hunting that time. Early season rifle, in my opinion, the toughest time to hunt elk, especially big bulls. They pull off the cows, rut's over, they're usually by themselves, they're tired from the rut, and this is the bull that I was talking about with my girlfriend. I mean, that's exactly what he was. He was by himself on the side of 3/4 of the way up a mountain that took me 2.5 hours to get him. Very lucky to find him. The pros obviously are still, the weather's fairly decent. And you can usually get around well, so you're not usually quite dealing with that yet. But it can be, in my opinion, the toughest time. I'm talking the mid-October time. It can be the toughest time to hunt for big elk. Late season, well, again, I think hogs are pretty obvious. It's cold. This is a bull that I shot this past January in Wyoming on a late season tag that I drew that went through to the 15th of January. We suffered through some really cold days. But as you see, I shot a really nice bull. That's the pro of it, which is oftentimes if you can get a good late season tag, the elk are, I was seeing 60 to 100 bulls a day on this hunt, every single day. Now, they weren't always on our ranch, but I was seeing loads of it. So you get to see elk, get to experience a lot of that. They're often behind furred up, but it is cold, so you're going to have to be prepared for that. Okay, I'll try to be brief about this. We'll go through preparing for some of the hunt. That was me a few years ago. As you can see, I've greatly changed. I was preparing for a stone sheep hunt on this one, so this was pre-heart attack days too. So anyway, but listen, fitness is if you're well hunting, it's important. I mean, I can't do what I can do then, but I still routinely walk 30 miles a week. That's my thing with my chocolate lab. Him and we try to do 30 miles a week. When I guided elk hunts for 20, 25 years, I can absolutely assure you the number one reason that my clients left unsuccessful was because they physically couldn't get to where I needed them to get to shoot that out. They just couldn't do it. I can't drag you there, and I can't bring him to you sometimes. Sometimes we got to get to them. So physical fitness. Again, I'm not telling you don't be a marathon runner, but don't eat ding dongs and hobos and be 50 pounds overweight and rock up to my camp and want to know where, how am I going to do to feel healthy? Some of this comes down to personal choice, but I will give you what I believe and what I like most. Again, having guided and killed lots of elk, they are a very big, tough animal. I know you can kill an elk with a 243. I would not suggest that you do it. I know it can be done. My favorite, I like the 300 Win Mag. I like to shoot heavy for caliber bullets, so I prefer the 200 grain ELDX and the Hornady ammo. I shoot the Ruger FTW rifle. That's my setup. Obviously, everybody has their own. I guess my biggest suggestion would be don't shoot the smallest caliber just because you can. I would prefer you, if I was guiding you, to see you shoot something a little bigger, 4 heavy caliber bullets, and good, well-constructed bullets. I mean, I'm telling you right now, hands down, I've never seen a tougher animal and seen these things take more lead than any animal I've ever seen.
And no cows behind you. No cows, no cows. No cows. Long draw.
Look, real quickly, some of you guys like archery hunt. I'll tell you, there's lots of bows, arrows, all kinds of those things out there. My only personal advice and opinion would be 2 things. I don't like to see guys hung out with mechanical broadheads. First of all, anything called mechanical can fail. A fixed broadhead generally does not. And I've seen them fail on elk. I remember when they first came out, I would say that for every guy that I guided that would hunt an elk with a mechanical broadhead, we would recover 1 for every 3 that we shot. I absolutely hate them, and there's a reason why Idaho, the entire state, has outlawed mechanical broadheads. Again, an opinion, that's my thing. One thing I'll tell you guys, and I don't even think most people know about it. Trijicon makes a single pin sight. It's not cheap, but it is the absolute best, easiest to use bow sight I've ever seen, and I am personally a big fan of a single pin. That's what I have on this bow right here. So, something to think about if you're an archery guy. Muzzleloader. There's some great opportunities specifically for muzzleloader seasons, dates, and areas that you might want to look at if you are a muzzleloader hunter. The only thing you want to be aware of, again, we keep getting into this, here, listen, one thing I love about Texas is the hunt laws here are liberal. I appreciate that. Across the West, I'll give you an example in Colorado. Yes, we can hunt with muzzleloader. We can use no scopes, no sabots, no powder pellets. I mean, go on down the list. Even though you can use a very modern muzzle loader, a lot of the modern things that they have created for them now in a state like Colorado you cannot use. So just be cognizant of that if you're going to be a muzzle loader hunter going to any place in the West. Scope, well, a rifle hunt, a lot of places you can get a muzzle loader hunt. We all like them. I prefer that over open sights for sure. My favorite go-to is absolutely the Trijicon AccuPoint. And this picture right here epitomizes why I'm such a fan of Trijicon scopes. We have the illuminated tritium dot. In a situation like this, where it's low light, and you put those black crosshairs on that black elk, I assure you, you're going to have a very difficult time pinpointing the exact aiming point. Whereas with this Trijicon AccuPoint, you're not going to have that problem. The other reason why I like Trijicon the best is, I keep going back to it, but again, and I refer to my home state now as the Communist Republic of Colorado, unfortunately, but you are not allowed to use any battery-powered optics on your bow or your rifle. So other manufacturers like Swarovski make a lighted reticle. It requires a battery. In the state of Colorado, that is illegal. So another reason why I'm a big fan. And then lastly, variable power scope. 50 millimeter objective, and a level more light in a situation like this, variable power scope. Again, I know some of the old school guys that I started hunting elk with years ago, that I want straight 4 power. Well, that's great, man, but I'm looking for a straight 4 power, and that elk was 350 yards away. I didn't know if I was looking at an elk or a tree. So, the wonderful thing about a variable power scope, he's 350 yards, you can crank it up to 10, 12, 14 power, makes it a lot easier. Binoculars, pretty obvious, reason you need them, but it really is true. I mean, you're hunting wide open, vast open country. You let your eyes do the walking for you. Don't expend all of your energy to get over to that mountain to see what's over there when you can sit on this side in glass. I mean, I've said this to guys, and I've watched a lot of guys on public land do this, and I mean, basically what I tell them is stop wandering through the woods with a gun in your hand, because that's all you're doing. You're not hunting. You might think you're hunting, but you're not. Sit somewhere, move the ridges, move places, use your optics and glass. Find the elk first, find what you want to kill, and then figure out whether you want it and how to go kill it. My big thing with the geovids, built-in laser rangefinder, pretty obvious why I like that. If you can afford to get the best, that's what you should do. If that elk's 373 yards away and I know it, I've got a much greater chance of killing it rather than just, Kentucky windage. Doesn't work there as well. So if you can do it, something I definitely suggest. I use the Leica, but here's the single biggest reason why I'm a proponent of spotting scopes, again, vast open country. I often do sometimes use my scope for actual glasses, especially when I'm trying to glass 3, 4, 5 miles away. I will use it for that purpose. And I will find elk that far away. But the most important thing to me for carrying it, even if you got your 10 by 42s and you glass that elk at 3/4 of a mile away, I assure you, you're not going to be able to judge him very well with a pair of binoculars. So again, if you've got a nice quality scope, you can determine whether or not he's what you're looking for before you waste your time and energy walking all the way over there just to go, darn, turn around and walk back. Clothing. Yeah, listen, I'm a big fan of this is me on the left, of course, in a cold weather situation. The cryptic on the right, I'm a big fan, but what you've seen in the last 5 or 10 years, I guess would be a better way to put it, is, clothing companies, hunting clothing companies have really come to the forefront of producing great product like we have in every other aspect of hunting. When I first, 15 and 20 years ago, all that me and my buddies that were doing this hardcore mountain hunting and guiding, we used all mountaineering clothing. Mountain Hardware, they were the only companies that made the kind of clothing that are best to be in those kind of conditions, wind, moisture, so on and so forth. Well, now, some of your hunting companies are doing the same thing. I'm a big fan of Cryptic. I think you should go on there and look at it. It'll save with weight. It'll save with difficulty. It's more comfortable, so on and so forth. There's a couple others out there, but don't go out elk hunting anymore in your Walmart camo and your cotton, and you're going to be miserable. And you don't have to anymore because there's a lot better stuff out there. Okay, listen, calling is, is what it is. Obviously, going to be in September as we discussed. It's a fabulous, fabulous opportunity to hunt elk. If you like it, you're going to get a good chance at it. Me personally, if I'm trying to kill a big bull, I never call out except a cow elk. I've never bugled elk, ever. And the guys that I know that kill the biggest bulls don't ever get. I don't even carry a bugle, and I haven't for years. This could be affected, ambushing, maybe at water. Food source you have a really water for elk can be a great place to kill elk. That hole on the bottom right, I killed him in a water hole a few years ago in Utah. You have to hunt an area that's not pressured. If it's a public land area where it gets lots of pressure, or even a private land area where it does, those bulls, they're in water, but they're going to do it at night. But if you can find a place where they're not being pressured, man, you'll be amazed how early and how easily those bulls will come right into water. My favorite thing, what's going to be done most, this bull on the right is one that Cameron and I did in Montana a couple years ago. He's 351. We spotted that bull at about 3/4 of a mile probably. Put a 45-minute stock on him and killed him. But we put our binoculars to use, our spotting scope to use, a variable power rifle scope to use. Everything came in, and that's what you're going to do the majority of the time when you're hunting elk in the West. Spot and stock is going to be the way you're going to find them. But honestly, guys, listen, that's it. You want to go on an elk hunt, which I hope you all do, because it's a fabulous animal to hunt and a great experience. I wish you all luck. Get out there, do the best you can, be as tough as you can. But, you know, good luck to you, and thank you very much for having me. If there's any questions I can answer, I'm happy to do so. Otherwise, thank you so much. Yes, sir.